Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. You know, as a boxing fan, I'm amazed, truly amazed, at how many boxers make career mistakes that keep them out of the ring, that keep them away from big money, big opportunity, the public consciousness. Now, in the 1980s, let me date myself, I read a book, Profound Impact on Me. Profound Impact on Me, because the book's really about economics. The name of the book was Jim Brown's Out of Bounds. Now, I know the press got upset, right? This is the same Jim Brown who was the great running back who now is the elder statesman for the Cleveland Browns. The press got upset because Jim Brown has a preference for, women who are college age, right? Okay, whatever. But there's a chapter in the book where Jim Brown talks about, really, at the time, the best running back I had ever seen. He's certainly better than any back in football today. And that's Eric Dickerson. And at the time, Dickerson was the starting running back for the Los Angeles Rams. This is the Rams before they left. Now, football was different back then. A lot of these games weren't sellouts, right? Sometimes, especially in Los Angeles, the local game got blacked out because they couldn't get a sellout. But people need to understand that Dickerson was a different level. By the way, Ezekiel Elliott did not break Dickerson's rookie record. It's Dickerson's second year where Dickerson rushes for 2,105 yards. So Dickerson was running behind one of the league's best lines, right? Jackie Slater, a bunch of guys. And Dickerson wanted more money, right? Now, keep in mind, Dickerson was the second pick in the NFL draft. Dickerson wanted more money. And Jim Brown, in his book, and understand, Jim Brown is such a giant in the sport of football that there are very few men you could compare to him, right? O.J. Simpson's one of them, right? Eric Dickerson's another. Right? Jim Brown felt compelled to talk about Eric Dickerson. Brown at the time lived in Southern California. And Brown wrote that what Eric Dickerson was missing was the fact that the big money, right? This is economics. The big money for an athlete is off the field. Right? You get to the big money by being a star on the field. But the truly big money is off the field. Right? Now, let me tell you, I'm not a celebrity stalker, not by a long shot. And I've run into a bunch of celebrities. But I was so hit by that chapter. It was so outside my own thinking at the time that I actually, got an invite and went to Jim Brown's house for a charity event, just so I could see how the guy was living, right? So yeah, I was walking around the house. It was really, Jim Brown was involved with something called the American program, right? I was really over there just to get a glimpse on how the guy was living. And so yeah, I looked around the house. I saw the balcony, stuff like that, right? Let's just say it was clear to me that Jim Brown had an insight that most young guys just don't have, especially, let's say, athletes who don't come from wealthy backgrounds, right? Who may not have been raised in a household where dad was an entrepreneur instead of a W-2 9-to-5 employee. So if you think about LeBron James for a moment, if you think about Michael Jordan for a moment, understand whatever these guys have been paid by their teams. And by the way, Both guys have been chronically underpaid, right, by their professional sports teams. Whenever these guys are paid by their teams, they make far more off the court, right, because they connote a certain level of excellence. So, even today, Michael Jordan's been retired for several years. You see him in Hanes commercials and stuff like that, right? These guys get such opportunities that people come up to them and say, hey, can I name my restaurant after you? I'll pay you royalties and stuff like that. If your name's big enough, you get that kind of VIP treatment. Opportunities come to you. Jordan now is owner of the Charlotte NBA team, right? I'm sure one of the reasons the league likes having Jordan as the owner is because Jordan was such a dominant player. He's an icon. He's an ambassador for the sport. Now let's shift to boxing. You know, in boxing, not a lot of these athletes come from money. A lot of these guys come from, let's say, creative families, right? Dad's working 2 jobs if dad's part of the household, right? Some of these athletes, quite frankly, you know, have come up the hard way, right? Bernard Hopkins is in prison when he reads Marvin Hagler's book, right? A lot of these guys were out in the street, you know, earning money, let's say, outside the lines. And now, of course, you know, I can tell you one of them wears a heavyweight belt, right? Do your own research online. So understand, these guys have advisors around them. And the advisors themselves might not have come from, let's say, traditional money, right? You know, you talk with someone and you're talking about things like index funds or, you know, investing in commodities or cryptocurrencies, and often you're going to get a blank look, right? Because the manager, in some cases, might just be a guy who's able to relate to the fighter because the manager is from the same kind of background, right? The same side of the street. But the manager himself might lack a financial sophistication to maximize the entrepreneurial opportunities for the fighter. So, let's talk about Manny Pacquiao. Now look, Manny Pacquiao has good representation. It's my understanding that the deal Manny Pacquiao has with Bob Arum, and understand the promoter just wants to sign the fighter, right? In other words, the promoter is the casting director trying to get a lead for the movie, right? Pursuing the superstar, right? Yes, Denzel, please sign here. You know, whatever the promise that needs to be made, Brad Pitt, yes, you can have that. Please sign here. Be in the movie, right? The promoter wants the big name. Now, Manny Pacquiao has in his contract a $20 million guarantee, right? The press is misreporting it. The press is claiming that Manny Pacquiao's demanding $20 million. No. Manny Pacquiao is guaranteed $20 million by his contract, right? Those guarantees are robbing Manny of opportunities that would make him a lot more money. So, Manny fought Floyd Mayweather, right? Mayweather, his size, right? The guys fight at welterweight, right? It was understood that the winner of that fight was going to be, pound for pound, the best fighter in boxing, right? At least that's the way a lot of the casual fans viewed it, right? The boxing hardcore, we're always looking at younger guys and we're always asking ourselves, could this version of Mayweather beat the Mayweather of 5 years ago when he was closer in his prime? In fact, of the fighters in their prime. Could this version of Mayweather beat them? Now that's the boxing hardcore. Casual fans look at the record. They look at the hype. They look at the highlights. Right? If Mayweather's considered the best in the sport pound for pound, and if Manny Pacquiao has a great resume and great highlights and great hand speed and is able to beat him, many casual fans are going to say, hey, Manny's now the best pound for pound. Right? Boxing hardcore people are going to say, whoa, not so fast. You know, even after Buster Douglas beats Mike Tyson, wow, who do you think was the better fighter? You know, sure, Buster gets the title, but, you know, who's the better fighter? Who would you take more times than not in a matchup between those two? When you're talking pound for pound guys can be upset. Keep in mind, there are other guys in other divisions who then you could say, hey, he's the pound for pound top. Right? Well, let me say this. A good argument can be made. Now that Andre Ward hit the canvas against Sergey Kovalev in a fight that was charitably scored in his favor. At a minimum, even if you believe Andre Ward won that fight, look at the scorecards. It's so close. 114, 113. That's the skin of your teeth, right? It's that close. I'm sure many of you keeping informal pound for pound lists then thought, you know what? This is making the case for Terence Crawford that much more convincing, right? For some of you, you're going to think to yourself, you know what? Golovkin just is more impressive now compared to the other guys because he hasn't been tested like this, right? Well, let me say this. Terence Crawford has a very convincing case of being named the best in boxing pound for pound. Right? He's fought real opponents. This isn't Anthony Joshua. We're not talking about Dominique Brazil as, you know, his top opponent. Dylan White as his top opponent. No, Terence Crawford's fought people like Victor Postal. Right? Big name, unbeaten fighter in Crawford's division. Right? Terence Crawford has beaten guys up. He beat Ricky Burns in the UK. Right? Credible fighters, credible champions. Right? This isn't, you know, a guy who is dealing in the world of photo finishes. This isn't Chocolatito running out of gas against Carlos Quadros. Can we say that in public? This isn't Gonzalez running out of gas and being lucky that the bell sounds at the end of the last round. He won the fight, but oh, again, skin of the teeth. So here's Manny Pacquiao with a guy who's not even 147 pounds. He's 140 pounds. Right? Pacquiao is the name the public knows. Terence Crawford is not, but he's the name the boxing hardcore knows. This fight has all the hallmarks of Oscar De La Hoya, who was well known, one of boxing's most popular fighters at the time, the cash cow, right? As boxers like to say these days, the A-side, against Floyd Mayweather. Right? Guy from a lighter weight class, who was viewed just like Crawford is right now as perhaps the best in the sport pound for pound. So if ever there was an opportunity for Manny Pacquiao, who didn't beat Mayweather, to grab the mantle, at least make a credible case of being the best in the sport pound for pound, it's here. Right? The people advising Manny need to realize that while Mayweather, in his prime, had freakish reflexes, right? Crawford is more of a technician than he is an athlete. There is a possibility that Manny's quickness might prevent Crawford from doing some of the things that Floyd Mayweather did against Manny Pacquiao. Right? Nothing would be bigger for Pacquiao's career at this point than beating a Terence Crawford. Right? Because Crawford is viewed as legitimate. So, we have the $20 million guarantee. If you're a Jim Brown disciple like I am, you're thinking, look, man, to hell with the $20. Waive the guarantee. Right? Tomorrow's not promised, boxers. Today is. You can have the best made plans. If Terence Crawford goes out there and loses, hell, if Terence Crawford goes out there and gets in a car crash and can't fight for a month, right? If Terence has enough of the sport and just decides, you know what, I'm out of here, then you're not going to have this opportunity. You don't believe me? Just ask Chris Eubank right now. Right? He was about to fight Golovkin. All the cards were lined up. That fight fell through at the last moment. Eubank, the last time I checked, isn't even fighting at 160 pounds anymore. That Golovkin fight is as behind him as this wall is behind me. It didn't happen. Right? And that was a fight where the styles would have given Eubank an opportunity. And just imagine, if Eubank had landed and just knocked Golovkin down, wouldn't even have to win the fight. If he just knocked Golovkin down, his career earning opportunities, his outside the ring opportunities would have multiplied. So to Manny Pacquiao, to Michael Kantz, right, let me make a suggestion here. Your guy came up short when he faced the best in boxing, Floyd Mayweather, right? I understand he got paid a hell of a lot more than he's going to get paid for fighting Terence Crawford, but that Mayweather fight, that's a once-in-a-lifetime type fight. My point to you, though, is now you have a fighter who's not even in Manny's weight class, who wants to fight Manny Pacquiao, who, if Pacquiao beats him, a sizable portion of the boxing public is going to believe that Manny has just beaten the best in the sport. And keep in mind, Terence Crawford has not lost professionally. If you beat Crawford, right, who hasn't even been severely tested professionally, if you beat Crawford, if you knock Crawford down, just think about the millions of dollars that's going to add to your commercial appeal and future purses. So right now, I'm convinced that there are a bunch of fighters out there with big guarantees from promoters who would guarantee anything to sign them, who are sitting on the sidelines, dying to get a fight, hoping to hop in the ring. Sean Porter, does this sound familiar? Timothy Bradley, does this sound familiar? There are many fighters who want more opportunities, who don't get them. because they have a guarantee in a contract that they don't want to waive, even when the opportunity might generate more money than the guarantee. Right? What you want to do is what they used to do, how Ali used to do it. Right? Get a percentage of the purse. Be even more original. Who wants to be on pay-per-view and have less than 1 million people watch your fight, when you could be on free TV and have your fight watched by tens of millions of people? Right? If there's a sport that is worse produced than boxing, please let me know. Because boxing does its absolute best to keep excellent fighters in relative anonymity. Right? So, to Manny Pacquiao, you're not going to help your brand fighting Jeff Horn. Come on. Give us a break. Right? You're only young once. And Manny, you're not that young now. Right? Don't waste time on fights that aren't going to improve your brand. Seize the moment. Fight Terence Crawford today. Right? When I say today, I mean sign the contract. Of course, you're going to have training camp and promotional appearances as part of the economic reality of marketing the fight to the public. Okay, great. But I would sign to make that fight happen now. Terence Crawford is promoted by Bob Arum. Manny Pacquiao is promoted by Bob Arum. That fight could easily happen if Manny Pacquiao just says, Bob, forget the guarantee. Give me this percentage of the purse. Right? Let's hope Manny's even more authoritative than that. Let's hope Manny's willing to travel to Nebraska. Make this an event. Didn't Vladimir Klitschko come to New York to fight Brian Jennings? Right? Bud is from Nebraska. Manny, if you want to increase your brand, fight Crawford in Crawford's backyard. Introduce Middle America. Right? Introduce the boxing public to a great match for boxing's mythical pound-for-pound title taking place in Middle America. You want an event? That's an event. The guys who get it, people like Ali, traveled for fights, right? Went to Zaire, went to Europe, right? If you're a guy who understands economics, right? Go to Nebraska, fight Crawford in his backyard, point out that Crawford's the unbeaten fighter. You're coming for his pound-for-pound belt. It doesn't even have to be for one of these alphabet soup sanctioning body belts. Right? We, the boxing public, know what this fight's really about. The winner of this fight's not going to need to have the WBC, WBA, IBF tell fans that he's a badass. We'll know it already. Right? Manny, what do you have to lose? Right? If you lose to the best in boxing, people will say, well, hell, he fought the best. Right? I mean, you know, when you fight great fighters, let's say Anthony Joshua comes up short against Vladimir Klitschko. People are going to say, well, hell, it was Vladimir Klitschko. Right? That's a hell of a lot better than losing to some scrub. Right? If you win the fight, or if it's dodgy, right? The scorecards come back, the public thinks you win, but the judges think the other guy won. That'll set up a ridiculously lucrative rematch. It'll also force the boxing hardcore to look at you as a serious contender willing to fight the very best. Don't let the guarantee stop you. The real money takes place outside of the ring. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.